I didn't realize I hit the. Hey, we're live. It's the Bradley J. Show, and today we're talking cars. And we have our guest, Craig Fitzgerald, here, my longtime friend and frequent guest, who's a beloved guest and wonderful on the radio or whatever media he is on. Thanks for being with me.
Anytime, always love to be here.
Now, we always talk about cars. You are an automotive writer. You have been for the longest time for people like Hemmings Motor News and who else?
Boston Globe, Car Gurus, let's see, Haggerty, and now I'm the automotive editor at DCI Marketing.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I've been on the radio for a long time, and it seems to work out very well. Really good chemistry, and we continue. So when I have an issue with a car, I talk to you, and you give good advice. And we've been talking about, my situation. And I'll go through my situation. And at the end of this, we'll come up with a question based on which sprang from my situation. I'll give you the question in a moment. No, I'll give it to you now. Are you sticking with a car, make or model, that ain't that good? It really doesn't. It doesn't measure up. If you go on you say average annual repair cost, it's way down there, but you stick with it for some weird misplaced loyalty. How does that happen? How do you fix it? How do you get over it? You have a codependent relationship with a bad car. Also, are you avoiding some really good cars out of some weird prejudice that is based on something tiny? Maybe it happened, maybe an issue with your father in that make of car, or I didn't like the headlights on that car, therefore I'm going to buy a worse car that doesn't work as well because I don't like that headlight. And of course, this is how they mess with your head. A lot of times the car companies mess with your head. They create a need in you, and then they feed the need. But also, even if you never saw an automobile advertisement, we come with that. We screw ourselves up when it comes to that as well. So we're here to talk about that.
All this is called, Bradley. All this is called brand marketing. This is what a lot of people like me even get paid to do. We get paid to sort of
mess with my head.
Mess with your head a little bit. Influence you in some ways that you haven't thought about. Show you some image somewhere that looks cool, and you think, well, I gotta go buy it.
So I'm watching a football game. I see a bunch of pickup trucks. Yeah, with a guy with a big voice. Yeah, you get the truck, and you can drive it through streams and crap. And you're never going to drive it through a stream. It doesn't matter. In your head, you could drive it through a stream, and everyone else says, that guy's pretty manly, got a manly truck. I even do say that. Look at that truck. What a manly truck. And kind of some of that truck manliness bleeds over into the person driving it.
Yep.
It's weird.
People
so here's my
don't buy things based on their actual needs. If they did, we'd all be driving, 4-cylinder or small cars, EVs. If people have one kid and they go out and buy a 7-passenger SUV. And, part of that is because, I get it. A car seat doesn't fit in a lot of things. And when you have one kid, you have a lot of stuff to bring with you. But you don't need a 7-passenger SUV. They're not driving those in Europe. They're not driving them anywhere but here. This is an us problem. Right. So, and it's all about branding, and it's all about, loyalty to certain things and ideas that you get in your head based on what other people are telling you.
Right. And so it's important to get those demons out of your head and get the best car for you.
Right.
So I'm figuring it's a good plan to take a look at you and your needs and write them down. What do I want in a car? Do I want something with zippy pickup? Do I want something to drive to the White Mountains, which is what I want? I want it to be an easy, sweet drive. I don't need a lot of noise, so like a Jeep isn't great for me, like an open Jeep like you have.
Right.
I don't need to haul a lot of stuff around. I don't need it to go super fast. I want it to be reliable, but not not boring. Yeah.
Right.
So so these are my things. And my story, our story is that, well, Shannon, my significant other, and I, we inherited from her brother a Jeep. It was a Jeep what? Liberty.
Right. Yep.
And it was a not a great vehicle.
Right.
Uh, but we stuck with it a long time because of sentimental reasons, because it was her brother's.
Yep.
Got rid of that and then got a Volkswagen. And for years,
You have
I've known.
Is that right?
What's that?
The Tiguan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2015 Tiguan.
Yeah.
And, we got all sorts of brand loyalty. We liked it. It was, I don't know why we liked it. Initially, I didn't like it. It had a kind of eggy little egg shape, but it had some zip to it. It was a turbo, and it was tight, and it had that kind of Volkswagen fit and finish. Okay, all of a sudden we got brand loyalty to that, and we're looking at other to replace that now because we have turbo issues with another Volkswagen because we had brand loyalty. But when you look at the data, Volkswagen not great at least when it comes to a compact SUV.
Right.
They don't even rank on the top 10 to get on a lot of the lists, and on a lot of the lists for maintenance costs, they're way down there. So I didn't know what I was going to do because there are three of us that used the car, and the two other people were married to the idea of the Volkswagen. And I didn't mind it, but then I was always bothered that you didn't like it because you're an expert, and I'm thinking, ooh, there's got to be a reason he doesn't like it. A bunch of reasons. And happily, though, we became aware of our misplaced loyalty. We've shed that, and we're going out, and we're going
without bias. You're going out there to really examine what's out there in the marketplace. Which that's all I'm trying to get people to do. And when I think I've said this to you before. I don't care what anybody's reliability ratings are and all that kind of stuff. You need one car. You need one car that's going to work for you. And for some people, that's a Fiat, which probably has the worst reliability rating of any vehicle out there. Maybe it doesn't now. But if it works for you, then it works for you. What it is you're trying to play the averages, right? So there's two things going on. People are trying to play the averages about reliability, and then they're also trying to get something that they like. And sometimes those two things meet up, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, like a Fiat.
Right.
You're saying that in any one instance, the car may work great,
Sure.
but I don't want to take that chance. That's the thing. Like the odds are, the numbers say that it won't.
Right. So what are the numbers, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. The numbers that I look at more frequently than anything else are the JD Power initial quality study numbers, right? Which is they send out a survey to everybody who bought a new car 90 days out. You've had this thing for 3 months now. What do you think? They ask you a bunch of questions. You sort of, have you had issues with this, with that, with the other thing? And so what that ends up being is number of problems per 1,000 vehicles, right? From the best, the absolute best to the absolute worst, it's a difference of like, and don't quote me on this, I'll find you the exact number. It's like 4 problems per 1,000 vehicles. We're talking about such a tiny percentage of people that actually had issues with those vehicles that it's almost not worth worrying about, right? That's number one. Number two, when you start looking at what those problems are, the top 10 issues that people have with cars are things like the connectivity with your iPhone. I don't like the way that they don't have buttons anymore and I have to touch things on a touch screen. I hate the fact that every time I change lanes, the car beeps at me. Those are the things that are dominating those initial quality
So
studies.
so
It's not mechanical.
inconsequential stuff.
It's inconsequential, and it's like every car has stuff that you're going to hate about it. I don't care what it is. There are cars that I absolutely love that have features that I wish they didn't have. So, you have to take all of this stuff with a huge grain of salt, because it's not like, oh, my except for Toyota at the moment with the Tundra, my engine has fallen out, my transmission has failed, my rear differential has failed. Those are not problems that people are having. They're having problems with the way the car works and the little electronic infotainment stuff that is just flooded into these cars over the last 10 years.
Yeah. And so with this all in mind, is it time to shift into, well, let's give this
talk about brand, right? So
Toyota. People buy Toyotas. They're not the biggest bang for the buck. They're okay. I test drove one and I was meh. Well, I'll tell you about it later.
If you ask somebody, you're looking for a reliable car, what are you going to buy? 9 people out of 10 are going to tell you, oh, just buy a Toyota, which is fine, right? They're great. They have a reputation for reliability. I can tell you that this year, since the beginning of 2024, they've had 11 major recalls on Toyota products, and they're not like loose A-pillar trim or the headliner has fallen down, and so we're going to replace those. It's engine failures. They're gonna replace 100,000 engines in Tundra pickups now because the engines are falling apart, right? And rear axles on the Tacoma, like these are things that should have been figured out decades ago, and now all of a sudden they're having some issues with it. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's a bad brand. I'm saying is they're as likely to have an issue as anybody else is mechanically.
At one of the places I test drove, a guy made an analogy to jeans. I can't remember what the brand of jeans was. He said, 15 years ago, I got these jeans. I love this brand of jeans. And they were great. They lasted long. But as time went on, people still bought them, even though the quality went down. They got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And the same thing is probably happening. He says he washed them once and then I had to throw them out. I like that car salesman, by the way. And the same things, he said the same things happen with Honda and, those rock solid gold brands. They got the brand, but they don't necessarily have the goods these days.
Yeah. I mean, ironically, when you look at that initial quality study, who does really well is Buick of all brands. Like they rank at the top of those things because people like the way they work. They like that they're not that a lot of the controls are more conventional, and the iPhone pairs pretty easily. Like that's all people are looking for. That's what they're going to complain about. That's a dumb thing to complain about in your car, by the way.
iPhone pairing is a giant thing,
huge thing. For people. It's like so. I'll tell you another thing. One of the top 10 complaints every single year is Apple CarPlay. Like how Apple CarPlay works, people seem to have issues with it and they complain about it all the time. So we've baked all of this technology into these cars, whether you want it or not. And then when they survey you, it's like, well, man, I hate this stuff. I hate the fact that they have a dial for the transmission selector instead of a lever. I'm going to complain about that. Well, that really has nothing to do with either the brand or its overall reliability.
So here's another thing. It's easy as you're walking around to look at cars and just initially say, I don't like that. I don't like those headlights on that car. Right. Even before you're buying. And then when you do go to buy, you go in with this weird prejudice. Those headlights, I told myself I didn't like them. Or other stuff. Like, what I hate? What I hate? I hate an egg-shaped center console.
Right.
I want a flat, and I'm glad to see they're going away.
Yeah.
I want a nice flat center console. I don't
Yep.
like those little round like eggy things. I hate
Right.
that. That's something I can't get over actually.
Right.
Uh,
Right. It definitely seems like everybody is kind of going to a much more functional center console than there used to be. I think there are some standouts, and I think there are some versions of these things that don't work as well as others. You and I have talked a lot about Hyundai and Kia, and Genesis, the third brand in the Hyundai group. They seem to be at the moment better at that than anybody else is, right?
better at what?
At the design of some of these things, they know they have to integrate a lot of this technology. They're going to give it to you in such a way that makes it easier to use. I'll give you a good example. The Hyundai products right now in the center console, they all have wireless charging for your phone. Hyundai's the only one that I know of that has a little square pad that elevates the phone just a bit. So when you put it down there, if you have a ring around your camera, like from a case, it doesn't interfere with the way that thing charges on that wireless charger. It's a nice design. It's something that nobody else does, and it really makes it stand out. And if I was a person who was asked about, whether I liked my vehicle or not, that would be a standout thing. That would be something that I would be enthusiastic about.
Interesting. Not transmission, engine, drivetrain.
No.
Because why is that? Because they're all the same, all good now.
They're not all the same. They're all pretty good, though. I mean, there are some vehicles that I've driven recently that have had 10-speed transmissions tend to be a little weird to drive. CVTs, you and I talk about that all the time. They're getting better all the time. The earlier ones were terrible, but they are getting better. The Subaru products with a CVT in them now, that Lineartronic CVT they're about as good as you're going to get, right? So they feel like they shift if you want them to, and then it's transparent if you don't want it.
So the Kias and the Hyundais, do they have that?
They
don't.
Kia and Hyundais now have almost all moved into a conventional, 8-speed transmission.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of brands have moved into that. The thing is, they're so good at what they do. It makes the CVT a little bit less appealing. So if you have a really good 8-speed transmission, a CVT is not going to provide a lot better fuel economy, which was what they were designed to do in the first place. So CVTs really kind of came into the fore when everybody had a 5 or a 6-speed automatic transmission, which weren't really great at fuel economy. You could add a CVT, really improve the fuel economy, for not a ton of research and development money. But now 10-speed transmissions, 9-speed transmissions have come along. They're really reliable. They get better all the time, and they offer that same, fuel economy improvement without the kind of less enjoyable things about a CVT.
So, what would you recommend to people to avoid sticking with a less good brand due to misplaced loyalty, or missing out on a really good brand due to some unearned prejudice?
I really would love to encourage people to just keep an open mind about everything, about the brand, about the deal you're offered. The brand thing is big for me because there are brands that exist right now. Hyundai and Kia are good examples where people have a foul reputation based on what those cars were like, almost to the point before you and I were driving, right? So 1984, Hyundai came into this country. 86, they were selling, a ton of Excels for $59.95. I remember them in the Boston Globe, advertised in the back page of the Globe for $59.95. It was the cheapest car in America. It was junk. It really was. It was a lousy car. They got a lot of them back. But the products that they built in 1986, it was almost 40 years ago.
Right.
Like that has nothing to do with the cars that they're building today, which are honestly, like for mass market automobiles, they're some of the best products you can buy right now. But a lot of people will not even consider them because it's a Hyundai. Genesis, same way. Why would I pay 70 grand for a Hyundai? Well, you pay 90 grand for a Toyota when you buy it from Lexus. So the G90, for example, it's one of the best luxury cars on the market right now, and it's largely ignored because it came from Hyundai, and it's a shame because it's a really, really nice vehicle.
Let me, at this point, follow up on our last episode where we talked about how to go out and test drive and not and have a good experience.
Right.
And I'm sure you're proud of me because in the past I've talked the talk and talked the talk and never walked the walk and never really gone out and done it. But my hand was forced when the Tiguan, the engine light went on. And it's like, oh no. And so as soon as that happened, we said, if we can get that fixed, as soon as we get it fixed, we're going to sell it. Well, it's fixed, and we're hesitating in selling it, which is kind of, I want to do this before it
comes on again.
Before it comes on again, yeah. So right away, we went out down to the Miracle Mile, which used to be the Ernie Bach Mile, and now it's New Car Mile, which is, I don't know. I think does Bach still own the properties and not the? I don't know how it works.
I think Bach sold off all of his dealerships except for the luxury car one. He's got a Ferrari dealership down there.
Yeah.
So he's still he's basically maintained his ownership of Subaru New England, which is the sort of, it's almost like a separate company.
Okay.
But dealership wise, I think the only thing he owns down there is the Ferrari dealer.
So, by the way, shouts to Ernie Jr. He was always very involved with WBCN, the rock radio station in Boston. I see you're wearing their T-shirt, which is good. That's one of the better fonts, by the way, for me.
A good one.
Later on, the later fonts remind me of the later years, and both of them sucked. So, got up, all shiny bright. Had some eggs ready to go out. Had made sure we brought sandwiches so he didn't get hangry, which was
amazing.
Which is, I gotta say, that's tip number one.
Yeah.
Bring food because it's hot and you're a little bit stressed.
Yep.
So we go to the first one and I'm dreading it. I haven't been to a dealer in years and years and years and years. And I felt like I was going to a doctor's office. I thought, okay, I just got to do this. Just got to walk in there and say, I'm looking for a car.
You're entering the octagon at that point.
Yeah.
The cage is closed behind you, and you're going to do battle.
So went first to a Toyota, new car Toyota. I guess I'm naming names. I can name names because everybody was great.
Yep.
I went in there, and it was Sunday, so it seemed kind of slow, but it wasn't. But not too long, the manager had hooked us up, brought a Toyota Rav4 around.
Yep.
2021. So this is it, man. We're starting to test drive cars. Here it is. This is real. Gonna get in this car. And let me get into the experience. Great. No, they didn't hassle us. Got any questions? Here's the key. License. Go ahead. See you when you get back. There was none of that. So, what are we going to do to get you into this car today? Blah, 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 blah. You got a car to trade? Blah, 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 blah. This is going to be gone tomorrow. No high pressure, no pressure whatsoever.
Right.
And you say that there's no pressure anymore because they can't. There's too many alternatives to the pressure. They can't do it anymore.
Yeah. It's gotten to the point where either retailers have largely figured out that they need to treat people like human beings, right? And I mean, no joke, in the 80s and 90s, it really felt like you were in a meat grind. But now it's they've learned a lot, and they do take those surveys, those CSI surveys, where people are asked afterwards what their experience was. They take them seriously. So what they used to do is kind of pressure you to fill out the survey in a positive way. And what they figured out was, well, if we just treated people nice, they probably fill the survey out the way we want them to. So,
All right. So here's my take on the Toyota. It was it was big, pretty big, bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
Hood up front. It seemed unnecessarily big. It seemed they made bigness. They just kind of poofed it up, poofed the metal up. Didn't need to be that big. Maybe to feel manly or something. And you know how that big front nose there makes a person, regardless of how they define themselves, a little stronger. Aggressive, yeah. And this was a high trim level, and I got to tell you, it's got stuff I don't need. I don't want to pay for that. I do not need a heated steering wheel.
Right.
Really? This, it had heated seats. Oh, the electric seats. Okay. But heated steering wheel? Never has a cold steering wheel ever been an issue. It's like not a thing. It's just another thing to break. So I test drove it. It was a hybrid, and it was a little big, and it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was 31 plus. I mean, expensive compared to what we.
This is a used vehicle, right? It's a 21. You said
it was a 21.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if that's a fair price or not, but compared to the others, it was expensive.
Yeah.
Drove it. It was a hybrid. The hybrid had balls. It really does. If you want to take off like you got a big engine, get a hybrid.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a hybrid's pros and cons in another episode.
Yeah.
But the ride was okay. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel super fit and finish. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel actually better enough than our car to even bother to get a new car.
Right.
31,000. Well, even in the worst case, I can get a brand new turbo installed for $4,000.
Of course. Yeah.
So, and there are other steps that, short of replacing the entire turbo, there are these 3 other things that could be replaced that would be about $400. So it's like, what am I doing? Because it was really good way to judge our car. So I was like, okay. Plus it had marks on it, on the bumper. It wasn't super clean. They hadn't really cleaned it. 31. Wow. I don't know. All I'm getting really is a car that will last longer, but not thrilled. If I'm going to buy a new car, I kind of would like to be thrilled about it.
Sure.
Next went to Honda, because everybody says Honda. Oh, Honda. I did a lot of research on TV. Honda will go 250, 300,000 miles. Trouble with the Honda CRV, boring. So boring.
Yep.
Like exquisitely boring. And it had the little shifter on the center console high up like that.
Yep.
I don't know what that's about.
What year was that one?
That's a prejudice that it might have been 20. They might have all been 2021.
21s. Yep.
And this one was another dealer, and it was a mess. It was dirty and dusty, but it was a dog. It was way worse than our car. It was a mushy dog. And yes, it may go 250,000 miles, but I don't want to go 250,000 miles like that.
Not that, right?
I'd rather stay home.
Yeah.
It was also expensive. It was like 28, and it was a junk. It was kind of beat, and it just was like boring, awful. Yep. Definitely keep the car. Then went to the new car Hyundai dealer, and the dealer, I will say, Mo was our guy, and he was really cool.
All right, Mo.
Super chill. Yeah. I said, let me get you the key. I said, we need our license? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. He was like, chill.
Yep.
Chill. And the thing is, you get in this was a Hyundai Tucson. Also 2021, I think.
Yep.
Probably an upper trim level. All of a sudden, now here's a car that has a feel like this is a step up from our car.
Right.
It's like, oh, maybe it is. And it was only 23 something.
Right.
Instead of 31 or 28. So it's a way better car. And I hate to, it felt tight, fit and finish, tight. The over the bumps, which there are a lot of on Route 1, as you know, The others were like this way. This had a little, just the right amount of,
Yeah.
just the right amount of road feel, but a little give, just right.
Yeah.
So and it felt strong and big, and your compartment felt safe, and it had this big. I liked the center console. There was the Hyundai Tucson, so it was noticeably better feeling wise. You just felt, wow, this felt more luxurious, like
Yep.
more Lexus-y
Sure.
kind of, and it was cheaper, and it was I think it was the same year. So, out of the three, if I had to get one, I would have gotten that, but I don't want to just get that one.
Right.
At your recommendation, especially now that I've checked out a Korean product, the Sportage Hybrid, I want to check
Yep.
that out,
Yep.
and a Mazda CX-30, is it?
CX-30. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I guess I hear good things about that, but who knows?
They're fun to drive, kind of. Yeah. So, like on the scale of like over here is kind of boring transportation, which honestly a lot of people are looking for. Like they don't want to, they're looking for a boring car. To more exciting, fun to drive. Like, Honda's kind of over here, Mazda's kind of over here, and then Hyundai kind of moves over to the more performance side a little bit, but is more kind of in the middle,
Yeah.
These, by the way, these things that you've figured out on your own are exactly the things that I have learned from driving a bazillion cars over the years. Like literally, these are the descriptions that I would assign to any one of these vehicles.
Okay.
Having driven all of them.
So the Hyundai place had a Kia on a lot, but he said it couldn't be a certified pre-owned because it has to be on a Kia lot to be certified.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And they didn't really have one ready to drive. So I'm looking forward to that. I myself, I don't need super sporty and super hard on the road. For me, it's a long distance thing. I don't want to be like on every little divot in Route 1.
Right.
But also, I don't like body roll, and the Tucson was perfect in that. We took all of them on the highway on 95, and you know how to do that. It's pretty easy to do, and you do a circle.
Yep.
Which is important because you got to know how it feels on the highway. Some people don't go on the highway. It could be loud. It could feel wobbly. It could feel vulnerable.
Right.
So getting on the highway is really important. So I'm looking forward to test driving these other things. But the point of this whole thing is that both Shannon and her brother and I have made great efforts to shed our misplaced brand loyalty and prejudice,
Yep.
unwarranted prejudices. Shannon was not liking the headlights on the new Sportage.
Right.
But hopefully she can learn to love them if the rest of the car is fantastic.
Like with that, right? I look at that like, well, you don't see those from the driver's seat anyway. Like you're going to have to look at them out the window, as you're sitting there looking at your car in the driveway, I guess, once in a while. But you don't see the headlights. To me, it's like, how do they perform? Do they work okay? Like, like that's what I'm.
But I do get the stylistic thing because I don't think I could live with. I don't think I could live with the shifter and the Honda CR-V up here. Another thing stylistically, it's tough for me to get over. At these little cowlings, little teeny cowlings that just about mirror the diameter of the steering wheel.
Right.
Over the speedometer stuff.
Those are like the difference. It's interesting. Like the difference between the years that you're looking at, 2021, 2020, and right now, the things that are coming out now, it's like night and day. When you get into like a current Tucson or a current Santa Fe, you're looking at a flat panel that goes from the A-pillar over here almost over to the passenger side. That's got all the information that you need, screens, speedometers and tachometers and all that kind of stuff in front of you. And then it just kind of merges into another screen with the infotainment stuff on it. And, you may like that, you may not like that, but the difference in the way these things look between now and 2020 and 2021, it's a vast difference.
Here's a question. Here's a question only you can answer, and that is: there's been a mad rush to have everything on the touchscreen. Everything. Get rid of all manual knobs. Is that trend gonna last? Because is it really better?
No.
To have crap on the screen all the time? It's because it's too attention. You got to pay attention over there. I want to know. There's a knob. I don't even have to look. I can turn it up. I can do this. Button. Knob. Lever. Do you think they'll get away from that screen business?
My friend Brian Reimer over at the MIT Media Lab, this is what they study. They study this. They know it's bad. And, it's like the human factor in any of this stuff. Like when you're driving, it's you're the wild card in this thing, right? And in your ability to learn how these things work is that's what determines whether or not these things are safe. So somebody who's a tech bro versus somebody who is, in their late 70s and just wants a car to drive around that's safe, like those are two different people. And these things are not designed for one of those people, right? So if you make it harder, it's worse. I don't care. You talk about this all day long, but if you make it more difficult to operate, it's worse. One of the things that's going on right now, I've read a great article last week about Rivian, which, I'm excited about Rivian. I think there are 3 brand new car companies in my lifetime.
If you have $100,000, Rivian's excellent.
I'll buy one in a minute. And I'm really interested in the R2 that's coming along. But specifically, what people were talking about was in one of those cars, the vents on the dash are operated by a touchscreen. So now, not only do you have to touch the screen, you have to find the menu, you have to do this, do that, you have to slide the little control. Now you've got a little servo motor inside the vent that opens and closes and turns the vent. Like, why? Why would we do this? Why would we? This is unnecessarily complex. And it's like we're just adding this stuff all the time, and it's just making these cars worse. And
I'd kind of make the case that even for a tech bro, the screen's not as good because it is menu, go to this thing, and it takes your attention to do that stuff.
Correct.
And knobs are cool. When are people going to realize that knobs are better?
Yep.
I'm
driving a Nissan Z this week, which I really love. Nismo, really cool, fun. But the thing that really kind of jumped out at me at how good this thing was the dash. The dash is terrific. It's got a giant knob for volume, a giant knob for the tuning part. Like you and I are radio people. I still listen to the radio. I listen to XM a lot. And it's nice to be able to just turn the dial and have it move to the next station. Like, I don't know why we got away from that. It doesn't make any sense for me.
There's something physically rewarding.
Yeah. Yep.
That goes way back to our primal selves, I guess, about turning a knob. Something about the manual thing, which is way better than going. Yep. And you can't see those screens very well. You've got to get in front of it mostly. We got to lean over a little bit.
When you want to touch a touch screen at 70 miles an hour, you can't do it reliably. I can touch a button. I can press a button.
Because you know where it is.
Over a screen. No.
It's like one act.
All bad.
So maybe just like vinyl is, people realize that vinyl's better. It's manual, it's tactile. Maybe this touchscreen craze will go away. I don't know. They must do focus groups to tell them that people like touchscreens, right?
So actually, one of the things in this article was like, literally, did anybody sit in this car and say, this is a good idea? Like, that's what's going on. Like there's a push from the manufacturer to integrate all of this technology in the cars. Gotta have it. People are asking for it. Well, yeah, people are asking for it, but then they're also complaining about it a lot when they get it because it's not integrated properly. It's one of my, I understand I'm an outlier. I hate Apple CarPlay. I hate it. I've always hated it. Like for me, the greatest moment was the idea where I could just integrate or I could pair through Bluetooth and play a podcast through the audio system, right? That's great. That's all I need. I don't need to answer phone calls. I don't want to answer phone calls. I don't need to have a text dominate the entire screen when, it's from my doctor, letting me know I have an appointment a month from now. I don't need any of that. A lot of people like that stuff. I don't. And it's not something that I think is particularly well integrated, especially now, because the screens haven't changed. Like the Apple iPhone screen hasn't changed a bit since it was introduced.
Right.
And it looks old now. So all of this effort has been kind of brought into the screens to make them look more appealing, to make them do things that you want them to do, to make them act the way you want them to do. And then all of a sudden you plug your iPhone in, and dominating this screen is something that's been hanging around for, a decade now. It's just not a great experience.
Okay, so finishing up, to avoid getting harmed by misplaced brand loyalty and misplaced prejudice, go out and test drive, touch it, feel it, drive it, and look at information that's out there online. And I watch a lot of those YouTube comparison videos.
Yep.
And so get information and forget everything you heard about it.
And know that what you like might not be what any of those people recommend. Like people like me, I'll tell you all day long, Subaru's great, Hyundai's great, Kia's great, this, that, and the other thing. But you drove a Buick and wow, I didn't realize like this is really quiet. They've integrated this stuff really well. This is, it's the right price for me. I don't care. I'm glad you located that. You know what I mean? If you can kind of open up the field of vehicles that apply to you and find the one that's really right for you, I really don't care what brand it is.
By the way,
buy whatever it is.
There was one Lincoln on the lot. We didn't drive it. Some Lincoln SUV. Is that a good car?
Oh my God. Like literally like the Aviator to me right now is one of the like Genesis G70, Lincoln Aviator. Love those products.
Those are expensive though, right?
Yeah, they're premium luxury SUVs.
Yeah.
But man, they're quiet. I like the way a door closes.
That's super important.
Oh man, it's really important to me. Those two things, they're like a bank vault. It's like they've added lead to the door. So that when you close them, it's like, oh man.
So the Aviator is really big, right?
Yeah, Aviator.
Is there one that's not so big?
Yes, it's the Nautilus, which I think I always get this wrong. I can't remember if the Aviator is the bigger one and then the Nautilus is right below it, but they're all like all the way up to the Expedition. They're all equally equipped, and they've spent a lot of attention to detail on things like that.
Hey, I have one more question. One more. Volkswagen Tiguan, new ones, recent ones, they don't rate very highly on the dependability list, on the cost of repair list. Yet there is a million of them out there.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Good deals. I mean, so remember, my favorite example of this was when all of a sudden there were a bazillion of those Mitsubishi Mirages around New England, and they were all purple. Like they were all this pink purple. Like why? Why are these things everywhere? It's because the deal was like too good to pass up. The financing was great. You could buy one for less than you'd pay for a used car. And so for somebody who just got a job, they're just out of college, they're looking for something new, like there was nothing else out there. And in New England, we sold them like crazy, and they were everywhere for a little while. That's why you see those things, because the deal is good. And, there is a lot of brand loyalty with Volkswagen. There are a lot of Volkswagen people who won't drive anything else.
Yeah. There are a lot of Mercedes people that drive Mercedes, and those are nightmares, right? I mean,
look, Mercedes, BMW, they're good products. They're probably more expensive to fix than anything else out there. I have my own big issues with Mercedes and the way a lot of things work. I think their gear shift lever is absurd, and they've had it for a decade now. It's awful. It looks like the turns. It's exactly the turn signal stock. It's the same stock on the other side, and it on the other side it controls the wipers. And I'm forever shifting into neutral because I'm trying to turn the wipers on. Terrible design. Like nobody should buy that. It's just, and I hope somebody at Mercedes listens to me for once, because it's a really terrible design.
All right, Craig, I got to leave something for next time. It's always a blast to talk to you.
All right, man.
And you have a gig coming up with your band at the Burren a week from Friday, right?
No, September. It's September 14th, not August. We are playing with the Prime Movers. We're opening for the Prime Movers.
A seminal '80s Boston rock band, and I know you're very proud of that. You should
really
be
excited.
Has it gotten you motivated to practice a lot and be really good?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's
sure. We want to turn out a really good 40-minute set.
All right. Talk to you again soon, everybody. Do me a favor and subscribe to this channel so you get notified, and click the bell so you get notified of new casts. Also, I'm going to share this to the links to this to all the other platforms, etc. So thanks for the time, Craig.
Anytime, Bradley. Happy to do it.
All right. Boop. We are almost done. Don't say anything crazy yet.